Okay, today we're going to talk about caffeine and how it can help or hurt athletic performance. Caffeine is one of the most consumed drugs by humans, and athletes use it for its ergogenic effect on performance. It can have some pain relief properties. Some of the studies I've looked at show that there's an increased pain tolerance while consuming caffeine. I'm also going to talk about some of the withdrawal effects from caffeine, which include grogginess, and some. We're also going to talk about some of the detriments that can happen when you're not consuming caffeine when you normally do consume it. So some of the positive effects of consuming caffeine include improved mental alertness and improved decision making. Caffeine acts as a CNS stimulant, and some of the physiological effects include increased heart rate, body temperature, blood flow, blood pressure, stuff like that. It should be noted that caffeine is a diuretic, so when not properly hydrating, it can dehydrate you. Um, One of the studies that I looked at saw a relation between caffeine and power output. So they did a test where athletes were given a placebo and they were given caffeine, and their power output was tested, and those taking caffeine showed improved power output. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of the negative effects of caffeine, which come from withdrawal symptoms. I've put up some quotes from some of the studies that I've looked at, but basically, when it comes down to is that if you're normally a high caffeine consumer, your performance will suffer dramatically when you're under withdrawal or when you do not ingest caffeine. Um, so you'll see decreased performance through a lack of mental alertness. You'll have slower reaction times and you won't be able to focus as much. So we're going to talk about minimal effective doses and how you can combat the withdrawal effects. So basically, the studies that I've looked at have found that about 5 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body mass is a good serving size. It's a healthy medium where you'll see the effects, the positive ergogenic effects, and you'll limit the negative um, withdrawal effect responses over time. Uh, the study I looked at also included a low caffeine dose study where it was about 3 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body mass, and it says right here that uh, people who went that route, who consumed low doses of caffeine, did see some of the ergogenic effects, but they were not as high, although it did limit their withdrawal effects. So if you don't ever want to suffer from withdrawal effects, a low dose of caffeine will be the way to go for you. Okay, now we're on to some general caffeine use guidelines. We've seen that taking too low a dose can result in the elimination of withdrawal effects, although you will not see as high of an ergogenic aid response from a low dose. On the opposite side, too high a dose can lead to a detriment in performance through shaking and nervousness, as well as the loss of fine motor skill control. So that leads us to the ideal ratio of 5 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. This is an effective dose because it maximizes the ergogenic effect while limiting negative side effects. A final point that I'd like to stress is the cycling of caffeine. This is important, especially as you build a tolerance to caffeine, and you can cycle caffeine by reducing your consumption prior to an important competition or event. That way, when you are ready to compete or perform, or whatever you do, you can take a moderate dose of caffeine and see the full ergogenic effects of it. Finally, these are just some of my citations, my sources. You can check them out here if you want to get a better understanding of the effects of caffeine on performance.